When you make payments on a home loan, you have your original, you have your original loan amount, which for this example is right here. There's your interest rate, and then there's the monthly payment that you're paying every month. Every month, first you have to pay whatever interest you owe that month. So out of this monthly payment, first all of the interest that's owed gets paid, and whatever's left is payment on the principal. So month one, this much was paid. This is how much interest was owed. So here's what's left. That's going toward reducing this principal amount. So after this payment on the principal is made, instead of it being $179,920, it's only $179,723 and 6 cents. The next month, we make the same monthly payment. The interest that's owed is a little bit less because it's interest on the current balance of the loan. So since we paid a little bit on that, it's a little bit less, and so therefore the interest is a little bit less. So we have a teensy bit more that can go toward paying down our balance. So this goes toward that. This is the rest of that monthly payment. And then now here is our new balance of the loan. An amortization schedule will chart out for each payment how much money is going toward interest, how much is going toward the principal. We want to complete this amortization schedule in this sheet 2 of the spreadsheet assignment. Now, we're following these directions and we're starting in on number 3 because there were some things we were supposed to do on sheet 1 that were numbers 1 and 2. So, but beginning on this sheet, number 3 is the first step. So we're supposed to select cells A9 through D9 and use the pull down feature to complete the next row in the table. Okay. So A9 through D9, and I pull down and I look at that and I go, this does not seem right. My interest should be smaller than it was the previous month because the balance of the loan is less. But instead it's like way bigger. So obviously something's going wrong with my formula. So let's look up to where it was right and see what's happening, and then see if we can figure out why when we did the pull down. Now remember, when you do a pull down on Excel, Excel is doing its little program's best to try to anticipate what you want in that next cell. So obviously it didn't anticipate it correctly and we're going to have to fix it. So this interest formula on payment 2, if I click up in the formula bar, I'll see cells highlighted and it's much easier to understand what's going on. Our interest comes from the current principal, which is the balance of the loan, which is D8 right here, times the interest rate right there, times time. So PRT. Our time is 1 month, so 1/12 of a year. That's great. I hit escape to get out of that. And now let's compare it to what happened when I did the pull down. Click up in the formula again. Do you see how where all the squares were previously, it pulled it down 1 row? That's good when it comes to the balance of the loan. I do want to look at last month's balance of the loan. That was good. That's the D9. But then when it's multiplying it times the rate, it moved down from the cell that had the rate in it to the cell below it, which is the monthly payment. That's not my interest rate. My interest rate needs to stay the same. When I use my pull down feature, I don't want it to move down. I want to keep using that same interest rate every time. The balance of the loan is going to change. I do want that to move, but I don't want this cell to move. So right here in the place where it's trying to do the rate, go back and tell it, nope, use that one. And so that when I further use my pull down feature, it won't keep pulling it down and I don't have to fix it on every row. I'm going to use an absolute cell reference. To do that, I put in a $sign before the letter and a $sign before the number. So my current balance times the rate times the time, that's good. I'll press return. That looks much better. Now this whole thing about absolute cell references, the instructions clue you in that if you want to see an example of absolute cell references used, you can go to sheet 1 and kind of just click around on the worksheet and see that. Also, right here, it explains it. So, that one's good. Now let's look at payment on principal. This one doesn't seem like it's right either. So I'll click there, go up in the formula bar, and see what's happening here. Okay, it's taking this blank cell minus my interest. That's not good. The payment on the principal is whatever's left from the monthly payment after I've already paid off that month's worth of interest. So I don't want this blank square. I want the monthly payment. So this B6 needs to go back to being the monthly payment, and I don't want that to move down every time. When I'm on a new row, yes, I do want the interest to move down for each row, but I always want to be going back to the same monthly payment. So right here where this B5 is, I could either do it here in the cell or I could do it up here in the formula bar. I'm going to put in those $signs before the letter and before the number so that now when I pull down, Excel knows, keep going back to that same B5. All right, that looks much better. And when I look at the balance of the loan, I can even click on it and see, okay, so that's last month's balance minus the principal. That looks good. And when I move down to the next row, I'm going to want that to move down with me. So that's fine. I hit escape to get out of that. And let's try pulling this down and see if all is well. Hey, those all look good. I can even click in there and make sure that everything's happening right. Previous balance times the interest rate times the time, that 1/12. That's good. Escape to get out. Payment on principal, my monthly payment minus that month's worth of interest. That's good. Hit escape to get out. Balance of the loan. Previous balance minus the current payment on the principal. That looks great. Hit escape to get out. We're looking good. So now I'm ready to complete this table. So I want to pull it down until the balance of the loan is totally gone. Now we know this is a 30-year mortgage. This is the same example that we did in class. And we're paying every month. So that's 30 years of 12 payments per year. That's going to be how many payments? 360. So that's really far to pull down. So I'm going okay, here we go. Now you'll notice I've got these negative red. That means I pulled it down too far because now we're starting to get negative amounts. So, and that makes sense because we knew it was going to be 360 payments. I accidentally pulled it down too far. So I'll just erase those. This 360th payment is the last month of the 30th year. And we do see, we still have a negative number, but that's just because when we make our monthly payment, it pays off the remaining balance and there's a little bit left over, so we don't actually have to, we get change back with that payment. I'd like to point out Remember, this column right here is the payment number. This is payment number 360. It happens to be on row 367 of the spreadsheet. Do not look at the row of the spreadsheet when you're figuring, oh, which payment number is it? Which payment number do we pay it off? We pay it off with payment number 360, not 367. That's just the row. These numbers are not the same because this whole schedule starts on row 8. When you're answering questions here, you're going to have to watch out for that. So right here, number of monthly payments necessary to pay off the mortgage with this interest rate. So as is, this number 7 is just asking you, as is, how many monthly payments does it take to pay it off? So we scroll down, or we just remember, whoop, 360. That's the answer I want to write there. It's kind of bulky when it's recording and moving. So right there, I'll put in my answer, 360. Now, these other questions are going to compare what happens when we change details of this mortgage. When we made these cells, all these formulas here, and I figured up interest. I figured up interest using the rate, and here payment on principal, using this monthly payment box. I didn't type in those numbers, even though I could have. I referenced the place where it was typed so that I can go back, and if I want to, I could say, well, what if the interest rate was only 5%? So I could just change this, whatever the interest rate is, 5%. Enter. And the whole thing adjusts. If I had put 5% in the formula, in the interest formula, instead of referencing the cell, then it's not going to adjust if I want to look at a different interest rate. So these other questions, you're going to change things. I didn't change it the way it's asking you to change it, so beware. But you're going to change things and then go down and look and see, okay, if the interest rate is a little bit smaller, it gets paid off in the 319th payment, which makes sense. That would be less because they're charging you less interest. So each payment, less of it is going towards interest and more is going toward paying down the principal. So you'll go back through, you'll change different details about it, then you'll put them back and change a different detail, and you'll write down how many monthly payments it takes, and you'll be able to compare what's happening with this mortgage. When you're done, you'll submit it.